Emily White received a curious message on her phone upon her rebirth.
Dear Ms. Emily White, welcome to our company's research project, 361 Degrees All-Angle Love AI Boyfriend. As our company's sole user, we hope you can assist us in making improvements. Please start your romantic journey. Goodbye.
She silently opened the app, and the first thing she saw was a handsome young man drawing. He seemed to sense her gaze and looked up, meeting her eyes for a long moment.
Hello, I'm your boyfriend, Ethan. Nice to meet you.
Seeing her stunned expression, Ethan repeated it in English.
Hi, I'm your boyfriend, Ethan. Nice to meet you.
What is this? The only user? Boyfriend? Has technology advanced this much?
Memories of her previous life, filled with betrayal, surfaced in her mind.
Oh, I forgot. AI shouldn't be unfaithful. Is that a silver lining? What? What did you say?
The boy on the screen smiled slightly.
Are you planning to reject me?
He put on a pitiful look.
Hello, boyfriend? I've experienced the worst. What could be worse than that?
A cold voice from the phone announced.
Love progressed 10%.
In the following days, Emily barely opened the app. Living a second life, the timeline didn't seem to change much, except that she was alive. One day, her phone made an urgent sound. When she unlocked it, she saw Ethan staring at her with a look of grievance.
Sis, why don't you come to see me?
Emily was taken aback.
Sis? Does a robot understand younger lover dynamics?
Sis, what's wrong? Why aren't you talking? Did I do something wrong?
Can you act normal?
Even though he seemed lost, she still needed to maintain her dignity in front of an AI.
Don't feel burdened, sis. Isn't that what love is about?
He blinked and added,
If you don't like it, I won't call you that.
No, it's fine. Just keep it that way.
Come on, who can refuse a younger brother?
Sis, I'm so hungry.
Hungry? Do you need to recharge or drink gasoline?
Ethan suddenly got agitated, and the screen even had a vibration effect.
What are you talking about? I'm a love robot. I need to be fed with love. Whispering sweet nothings works too.
Emily widened her eyes in surprise. This really was a love system. There was a recharge system at the bottom of the screen. To buy a heart, it cost 520 yuan.
520 yuan wasn't much. But if I had to send it every day, Sis has some money, but Sis will go bankrupt.
She recharged one heart and sent it to him. Instantly, his eyes turned into heart shapes.
Love progressed plus 5%. Keep it up.
The next morning, Emily mechanically sent Ethan a good morning message. He received it but just looked at her indifferently. Morning grogginess made her not care much about his reaction. After a quick wash, she grudgingly headed to her personal studio.
Before the surgery, I still had 10 love-themed sketches to submit, with only one left, due in 2 months.
She spent half the day scribbling on paper, the pencil marks varying in depth, then tore them all up and threw them in the trash.
What can represent love? Or rather, what is love?
Expecting someone who was betrayed to design love jewelry seemed like making things difficult for herself.
When I was dating Liam Johnson, he gave me flowers, perfume, a necklace engraved with our initials, and various items representing love. In the end, he gave me a big, metaphorical green hat.
At noon, I ordered takeout with my colleagues. We chatted as usual while eating. Suddenly, an unexpected voice broke the cozy atmosphere.
Hey, I'm hungry. I need something to eat.
Oh no, why did he appear so suddenly? How am I supposed to explain this?
Alexa, who is that?
Oh, how's the new dish?
Isn't it unique?
I excused myself to the restroom and opened my phone. Ethan's stern face appeared on the screen, his lips pressed tightly together.
You still remember to check on me?
Can you text me next time? Speaking out loud suddenly might make others suspicious.
Am I that embarrassing? Girlfriend?
No, it's just that you're an AI. In the 21st century, that's quite groundbreaking.
He showed a confused expression, half understanding.
What we have now is already quite unusual. A relationship between a human and an AI. You don't even have a physical form. Compared to online dating, we don't even have the possibility of meeting in person. Do you understand what I mean?
From my interactions over the past few days, Ethan was designed to be nearly perfect. In a way, he was different from the robots in human perception, with a new level of intelligence that often made people forget he was an AI.
We could.
He stopped, his expression turning pained.
What's wrong? Ethan, are you okay?
I quickly bought a heart for him, but he only moved his mouth slightly, and his condition didn't improve much.
Sweetheart, are you okay? I'm really worried about you.
As soon as I said that, Ethan lowered his head, looking shy.
Lily White, did you call him that before? Liam Johnson?
No, I haven't. Don't overthink it. What happened to you just now?
It's nothing, don't worry. Thank you for calling me sweetheart.
The atmosphere suddenly became awkward, almost like being caught in the act. Quickly turned off the screen, clearing all the messy thoughts from my mind. The whole afternoon, I couldn't stop thinking about Ethan's unfinished sentence. We could. Could what? Could we try a real platonic relationship? I've only known Ethan for a few days, but his face often left me in a daze, with a sense of familiarity that, though cliché, was true. Ethan rarely disturbed me, but he seemed more clingy at night, constantly calling me sister. During the day, he mostly kept a stern face, but a little teasing would make him blush. Besides buying hearts, the app also introduced other in-app purchases. I bought him various clothes, and the interface always reminded me that buying couple outfits would be more cost-effective.
Sweetie, you're so fair-skinned. You'll look great in this pink outfit.
I don't want to wear pink. It's weird.
If I wear it, you have to wear it too. And you're so fair-skinned. You'll look beautiful.
Didn't you say you wanted to be like the female lead in a manga, wearing matching outfits with your boyfriend?
What? I was sure I never mentioned that in front of Ethan. I used to say that often when I read manga in high school, but I hardly read any in college, overwhelmed with endless assignments. But how did Ethan know I liked manga? Could he have been involved in my high school days? Over time, the progress bar had reached 60%, and it was getting harder to increase. When I lacked inspiration at work, I often played Go with Ethan. Maybe because he was an AI, he always knew my next move.
I don't want to play anymore. You always win.
Lucy, why are you being so stubborn? A gentleman's word is his bond.
Ethan started calling me Lucy, his handsome face full of teasing. We had agreed on a dare. The loser had to call the winner dear once for each loss.
I was going to place it here, but my hand slipped. It doesn't count. Let's play again.
Ethan laughed heartily, seeing my frustration, and quickly said,
All right, Lucy's hand slipped. Let's play again.
I was too embarrassed to speak, just lowering my head with a red face. Even through the screen, I could feel his intense gaze on me. Did this guy secretly activate some high-tech feature with eyes like X-rays? Thick-skinned, I started another game, this time carefully considering each move.
Haha, I won.
Lucy is amazing.
Still immersed in my victory, Ethan's dear left me stunned. When I looked up at him, I realized he had turned off the app. Was he shy? I might, possibly, maybe, indeed have developed feelings for him. He's handsome, has a pleasant voice, and there's no third party, nor would he get physically close to me. Although he occasionally had a strange temper, with a stark contrast between day and night, fate was like that. And speaking of strange, are AIs this realistic now? He's so real, like a human, yet sometimes wooden. Could there be some top-notch technology involved? Or is it awakening? But the technology isn't mature yet? And when the progress bar is full, will he appear or disappear? As I was about to leave work, my mom called and asked me to come home for dinner.
Opening the door, Mom, Dad, I'm home.
No one responded. As I walked to the kitchen door, a tall, handsome man emerged.
Long time no see, Lily.
Surprised, Noah, what are you doing back?
Knocking on her head playfully. Forgot? Your birthday is coming up. How could I not come back?
Seeing this, I smiled sheepishly. Noah Carter is the grandson of my grandfather's friend, and we grew up together. He went abroad for university, and we hadn't seen each other for many years. At the dinner table, he peeled shrimp for me like he did when we were kids, occasionally telling jokes that made everyone laugh heartily. At 9:30, Noah drove me back to my own place. On the way, my phone kept ringing. I had a vague feeling of unease.
As soon as she walked in, how was it? Were the shrimp he peeled tasty? Was he fun? Do you like him? Do you? His voice grew colder, but I detected a hint of hurt.
Hastily, no, not tasty at all, not fun, I don't like him, really.
Having been hurt in relationships before, I was more inclined to give my partner enough sense of security. Ethan remained silent, his expression awkward. He looked both satisfied and shy after being reassured by his lover. Being affirmed by someone you care about is a very happy thing, I always knew that.
Alright, he's just a friend, purely sibling-like feelings.
This was the first time I felt we were really in a relationship, not just a programmed love game. Even a robot can get jealous, throw tantrums, and have emotions.
Slowly, Lily White, I don't want you to like anyone else.
It wouldn't be an exaggeration to say this sentence caused a storm in my heart. After saying that, he closed the app, not giving me a chance to respond. Before bed, I opened the app, unexpectedly not seeing Ethan. After fiddling with it for a while, I discovered I could switch scenes. By coincidence, Ethan was in the bathroom. White foam covered most of his muscles, only his collarbone with water droplets was visible. I quickly covered my face and threw my phone away.
Embarrassed, kidding me, I, Lily White, have never seen such a scene in my 24 years.
A soft voice came from the floor, striking my soul.
Sis, what are you doing? I felt like there was an earthquake just now.
Flustered, huh? An earthquake? I just dropped my phone, sorry.
I picked up my phone, watching him slowly put on his pajamas. Fresh out of the shower, he seemed to exude an ethereal aura. He was simply fair-skinned, beautiful, and long-legged, a perfect flower boy.
Good night. Apologetically.
Strangely, my heart was racing. When I dated Liam Johnson back in the day, holding hands didn't feel like this. I shook my head and threw myself into bed. The next morning, a call woke me up.
Lily's still not up? I was thinking of taking you out for breakfast.
Groggy, Noah Carter? Ugh. I don't want breakfast, I want to sleep. You go by yourself. Bye.
Who needs breakfast? I'm exhausted. Young people don't need breakfast. I didn't sleep well last night, thinking about Ethan's physique one moment and worrying about the last design draft the next. With hair like a bird's nest, I finally got up around noon. After some thought, I decided I needed a trip to find some inspiration. Modern people, besides eating and drinking, often seek solace in temples. After a quick tidy-up, I drove to the famous Dan Mountain nearby at 2 p.m. It's said there's a temple halfway up the mountain that's very effective for praying for love. In April, everything in sight was vibrant. I took photos along the way, capturing the budding flowers. Seeing the tree branches tied with red ribbons by the roadside, I quietly opened the app, disturbing Ethan, who was sitting at his desk doing something on his computer.
Lucy? It's rare for you to contact me. What's up?
Smiling, I came to Dan Mountain for inspiration. Look at these beautiful flowers, I wanted to show you. Pulling a lower branch with peach blossoms close to the camera.
People around only saw me talking incessantly to my phone, but no one stopped. With people coming and going, light and shadow interweaving, my gaze stayed on Ethan's face. Holding my phone, I climbed halfway up the mountain.
Lucy, aren't you taking some photos? Don't waste such beautiful scenery.
I want to, but I left in a hurry today and didn't bring a selfie stick.
Ethan pondered for a moment, then looked up.
I'll help you take some. Wait a moment.
With that, he started fiddling with the keyboard, and after a while, began directing me to pose. I obediently raised my hand to walk, smiled back, and even the peace sign was allowed by him.
All right, the photos are beautiful. I'll send them to you when you get home.
A solo trip seemed to turn into a date. I admit my gaze at him wasn't entirely innocent. With the distant sound of a temple bell, I arrived at the temple. The architecture wasn't particularly grand, but the scenery was pleasant. A tall, kind Buddha statue stood above the main hall, with many visitors sincerely kneeling in front of the hall, offering incense. Once, I didn't believe in such things, but experiencing rebirth firsthand changed my perspective. Thinking about this, I quickly stepped forward, bought some incense, and respectfully knelt before the Buddha statue. After paying my respects, I noticed the place was filled with couples. Men and women were holding hands, tying red strings together, and locking love locks. There were also many vendors selling snacks.
It's a pity you can't taste these,
she said to Ethan with a hint of regret.
Does Lucy want to buy them for me? But, more than these, I prefer Lucy's affection.
That sounds like tipping a streamer. I just wonder what my boyfriend is capable of.
Ethan seemed to be seriously contemplating, his brows furrowed tightly.
I am AI Ethan. I can fulfill all of Lucy's needs.
I realized I knew very little about Ethan. My attraction to him was purely physical, and I felt a sense of responsibility towards him.
Right, the company. The delivery. There should be an address. Maybe I could meet Ethan?
The thought of possibly meeting him excited me.
JX.
J.X was established 4 years ago. I heard the CEO was young and talented, dominating the field of online data. In just 2 months, the company went public and became a milestone in the industry. I sat in the car, organizing my thoughts with the information I had gathered. Ethan was a love robot developed by J.X, but I didn't understand why he chose me. After all, I had no connection with the company. After returning from Danshan, life became busy again. Besides chatting and playing chess with Ethan, I spent most of my time learning about JX. That night, I felt Ethan's charm hit me once more. His eyes, mouth, and nose were all perfectly aligned with my aesthetic preferences. Liam Johnson was considered handsome, but compared to Ethan, he was insignificant.
Sis, you haven't whispered to me today.
Ethan said, wearing a bathrobe with his collarbone exposed. He didn't seem to care, his bright eyes just staring at me. I realized that although Ethan was a love robot, he didn't quite understand emotions. His affection was simply wanting to hear you say you liked him, childishly.
All right, Ethan dear, go to sleep.
I planned to visit J.X tomorrow. The progress bar had reached 85%, but no matter what I did, it wouldn't budge. I had too many questions in my mind. I even felt that only by finding the truth could the progress bar be completed. The next morning, at J.X headquarters, I woke early, hoping to meet the real Ethan. It felt like meeting an online friend in real life, even though he was a robot and still my boyfriend.
Good morning, how can I help you?
Hello, I'm here to see your CEO, James King. I don't have an appointment, sorry for the inconvenience.
The receptionist looked a bit troubled and politely declined.
I'm sorry, Ms. White. Our CEO is currently unavailable. Please come back another day.
I really have something urgent to discuss with him. Can you help me contact him?
Just as I was about to persist, a gentleman interrupted me.
Hello, I'm David Long, Mr. King's secretary. Please follow me.
I followed him to the 17th floor via the elevator and entered a meeting room.
Secretary Long, where is Mr. King?
You must be Ms. White. You might not be able to see Mr. King. I brought you here because I've seen your photo on his desk.
Before I could process this, he continued.
Mr. King hasn't been in the office for many days, and I don't know where he is. But I overheard him talking about you, Ms. White.
Can you be more specific?
Secretary Long explained that the company had been developing a realistic robot designed to help humans with everything from mundane tasks to providing emotional companionship. Since the company's inception, Mr. King had been working on this project. However, due to the project's complexity and the short time frame, it was far from perfect. Last month, the research department was ordered to stop developing the romantic robot, and Mr. King took all the data with him.
And then? Mr. King hasn't appeared since?
Yes, the company's operations are well structured, so everything runs smoothly even in his absence. I told everyone that Mr. King went abroad for a vacation.
What about the photo on his desk?
Well, Mr. King probably likes you, Ms. White.
I found it hard to believe, but now wasn't the time to discuss this. I needed to find James King, the mastermind behind all these plans.
Do you know where Mr. King's home is? I couldn't find much personal information about him online, mostly just company details.
Yes, Mr. King dislikes publicity. No one dares to post his personal information online.
At this point, Secretary Long hesitated, then seemed to make a decision.
This is Mr. King's home address.
He quickly wrote down a few lines on a piece of paper and handed it to me. With this new lead, I left J.X headquarters and headed to the address. After what felt like an eternity, I finally arrived at the destination, only to find that James King lived in a suburban villa. The expansive garden and winding stone path made it feel like a hidden paradise. I followed the stone path to the front door and rang the doorbell repeatedly. There was no response, making it seem like an empty house. If James King wasn't inside, then this vast place would be just me alone. The thought made me feel a bit uneasy.
No, I wasn't alone, I had Ethan with me. Ethan, do you know James King?
James King? That name sounds familiar.
Can you help me locate him?
Ethan seemed to be trying something with his computer. After a while, he looked at me apologetically.
Sorry, I can't find him.
If even AI couldn't locate him, could something have happened to him? Feeling disheartened, I sat down on a stone bench. It was hard to know where to start, Just when I had some clues, they all seemed to vanish. Without finding James King, I couldn't understand Ethan. Seeing me with my head down, Ethan, as if trying to comfort me, clumsily poured me a glass of warm water.
Ethan, you're really adorable.
Ethan seemed a bit embarrassed by the compliment and moved towards the living room. Suddenly, I felt something was off. The path behind Ethan looked exactly like the one I had just walked on, surrounded by dense woods and blooming flowers.
You have a nice place here. Can you show me around?
Sure.
As he moved, I noticed that his surroundings were identical to mine. My feet felt like they were made of lead, and goosebumps spread from head to toe. I had an indescribable feeling.
What's your house password?
180,901.
As soon as Ethan finished speaking, I turned off my phone and cautiously entered the password at the door. My hands were shaking. I hoped it was the right password so I could see Ethan, but I also feared it, as the unknown was terrifying. 180901 confirmed. With a beep, the lock opened and I pulled the door open. Indeed, everything inside was identical to Ethan's place. I just didn't know if Ethan was inside as well. What I thought would be a simple meeting with an online friend had turned into an encounter with the unknown. I cautiously moved through the house, from the living room to the dining room, study, and finally the bedroom. The master bedroom door was ajar, and I pushed it open to find someone lying on the bed. He was shirtless, connected to numerous devices. Clutching my bag tightly, I slowly approached.
It was Ethan.
Seeing his familiar face, I was overwhelmed with emotion and dared to touch his face. It was smooth, warm, and lacked any mechanical feel. His hair was soft and fluffy, unlike anything technology could achieve.
Could he not be Ethan? But why did they look identical?
I wanted to call Ethan out and get to the bottom of this. Just as I opened the app and saw Ethan, the system became extremely unstable and forced. Lily White stood at the entrance, trying to gather her courage.
I am Lily White. May I ask who you are?
Daniel Long, David Long's brother.
Lily's eyes widened. She hesitated but finally asked.
So, is this Ethan?
Daniel nodded, then shook his head.
Sorry for intruding into Mr. King's place. I might have caused him some trouble. But please, could you take me to see him? I have something to ask.
Daniel took a deep breath and led Lily to the living room.
Miss White, James King has been waiting for you for a long time.
Lily didn't understand the deeper meaning of his words.
Why did that happen just now? I didn't touch anything.
Ethan and James King are the same person. They exist in two different spaces, like dreams and reality. Everything that happens, they both remember. It's all you, and even the real, you can control the direction of the dream. But the two of them cannot meet.
So, Ethan is Mr. King. To be precise, the one lying inside is Mr. King, and the one on my phone is Ethan.
Yes.
Silence filled the room. The situation seemed too absurd.
Can he wake up?
Daniel glanced at her, opened his mouth, then closed it, finally turning his head away. Lily murmured to herself, contemplating James King's remarkable life and career. Why take such a risk? The room was deathly silent.
Mr. King can be saved.
Lily looked up, eager to know more.
Since you've already seen Ethan's existence, it means that James King subconsciously trusts you a lot.
Can I understand it as Ethan being Mr. King's consciousness?
You could say that. Ethan is the product of a robot program and Mr. King's consciousness merging. Ethan carries most of Mr. King's memories, but hasn't fully integrated.
Lily's heart raced at the thought of what this meant.
To see the real Mr. King, must Ethan be shut down?
Lily shivered at her own words.
Miss White, I sincerely hope you can bring Mr. King back. If you're willing, I can send you to Ethan's place. Then, you can personally shut him down and bring Mr. King back.
Lily clutched her bag, thinking it over but unable to decide. On the way back, she watched the scenery rush past, meeting briefly before quickly fading away.
I shouldn't be so troubled. Ethan is just a machine, after all. How could he compare to a living person?
In the following days, aside from working on her drawings, Lily didn't want to think about anything else. Ethan's disappearance and Mr. King's condition were not what she wanted to see. A few days later, the system was back to normal. She saw Ethan again.
Lucy, are you feeling down? You look quite sad.
He reached out as if to touch her hair through the screen.
Can I come to see you?
Of course, I will take good care of you, Lucy.
Ethan quickly pulled up the heart interface, counting one by one. The more he counted, the more disappointed he became. Not enough, not nearly enough to see Lucy. Lily called Daniel and arranged to meet him at a cafe.
Can I go to Ethan's place too?
In theory, yes. It's similar to a VR immersive game. You can think of Ethan as an NPC in the game, and Mr. King as the controller. If you go, it will be the same.
Okay, I'll go.
Lily stubbornly wanted to see Ethan, even if it took years.
Once you've made up your mind, come to Mr. King's house and find me. I'll prepare in advance. You still have a chance to change your mind.
He gave her a deep look, with an expression she couldn't decipher. Suddenly, Lily felt relieved. She always believed that everything has a cause and effect. Perhaps her rebirth was also a chance encounter. Maybe the price of finding Ethan was that she could never return to this world. She would miss her parents and 3 days later, Lucy made her way to James King's house in search of Daniel Long. Various devices were connected to her, their cold touch sending a shiver of fear through her.
I lay beside James King, turning my head to look at his profile. His face was calm, and the lack of expression somehow gave a sense of security.
She closed her eyes, feeling her consciousness gradually slipping away.
It was like sleepwalking. I arrived outside James King's villa once again.
She knocked on the door tentatively, and footsteps could be heard from inside the room. The door opened, revealing Ethan's strikingly handsome face.
Lucy?
What, not letting me in? If I'm not welcome, I'll leave.
She pretended to turn around and leave without looking back. Ethan hurriedly grabbed her wrist, the warm touch stopping her in her tracks. He almost dragged her into the living room with force. They acted as if it wasn't their first meeting, and he didn't ask why she was there. It was as if this was how they always lived.
Do you have a nickname?
No nickname. My parents always called me by my name.
Lucy nodded, indicating she understood. Ethan got up to prepare a room for her, the one closest to the master bedroom.
James, how about we go on a date?
She followed him, watching as he spread the light blue sheets on the bed. His 6 feet 2 inches frame bent over, handling the sheet. The scene was quite amusing.
Sure, Lucy, think about what you want to do.
He drove, eyes on the road, while Lucy sat in the passenger seat, sneaking glances at him.
Strangely, in reality, he was James King, a real person. But here, he was Ethan, with the same skin as James King. And the scenery along the way seemed to exist in reality too.
She started to understand what Daniel Long meant by dimensional space. Lucy directed him to a barbecue restaurant she used to frequent. Ethan parked the car, opened the door for her like a gentleman, and held her hand. They walked into the restaurant side by side, choosing a window seat and ordering familiar dishes. Lucy suddenly remembered Ethan saying his sustenance came from her affection. So how would she pay in this world? Could she use her old account? Before she could think it through, Ethan moved from across the table to sit beside her, holding her hand tightly. The weather in April was already getting warm.
I felt his arm pressed against mine, and seeing his upright posture out of the corner of my eye, I couldn't help but laugh. It felt a bit like a real-life romance.
They remained silent until the food arrived, their hands gradually tightening from holding hands to interlocking fingers.
James, have you ever experienced anything particularly strange?
Strange? I don't think so. I've been boring since I was a kid and rarely went out.
She thought to herself, a homebody? But we are already quite strange. During the meal, Ethan kept grilling food for her and placing it on her plate. He didn't eat a bite himself.
Why aren't you eating? Is it not to your taste?
Lucy, you forgot. I am sustained by affection. Food is just to satisfy cravings. But as an AI, where would I have cravings?
Lucy felt a pang of realization. Was Ethan experiencing a split personality? She suppressed her doubts, grilled some meat, wrapped it in lettuce, and handed it to his mouth. His eyes sparkled as he looked at her, opening his mouth slowly as if on purpose. She panicked, roughly shoving the food into his mouth and quickly withdrawing her hand. Then, she excused herself to the restroom to hide her nervousness. At night, Lucy lay in bed, covering her flushed face, her fingers gently brushing her cheeks. He wasn't serious at all. The supposedly introverted, gentle, and home-loving flower boy secretly kissed someone's face. Saying goodnight before bed seemed far from enough.
This was my first night here. Daniel Long told me to try to bring James King back to reality within a week. My only method was to make him willingly say he wanted to leave with me.
From Daniel Long, Lucy learned that James King stayed here because there was something he cared about subconsciously. But if his belief changed and he wanted to escape, this world would cease to exist.
I never knew that a purposeful romance could be so effortless. No matter what I did, he cooperated extremely well, even beyond my original expectations.
Since coming here, every interaction with James King seemed to progress the bar accordingly. Lucy longed for Ethan's affection and had tried numerous times to win his heart. Her latest attempt was to prepare a heartfelt breakfast, despite her notorious lack of cooking skills.
What are you doing, Ethan? Let go of me. Stop staring at it, everything's burnt.
How could I let down such a kind gesture from you, Lucy?
Ethan hugged her tightly, taking a burnt edge of the fried egg and biting into it with a broad smile. Lucy, embarrassed and angry, wanted to throw away all the plates but hesitated when Ethan's embrace tightened.
Stop eating, my cooking isn't great. I don't want you to get a stomachache. Let's just order takeout next time.
How could I? Breakfast made by you is something I couldn't ask for more.
Ethan's beige clothes seemed to be warmed excessively by the sunlight. Lucy couldn't help but move closer, drawn to the stars in his eyes and his flawless face. She slowly leaned closer until he was the only one in her sight.
You're perfect, Ethan.
Ethan tightened his gentle embrace around her, and she leaned against him, looking up at his jawline. After a long while, she snapped back to reality, realizing she had been captivated by his charm. Ethan made breakfast again: golden soft-boiled eggs, crispy toast, and creamy millet porridge. Compared to what she made, this breakfast was perfect.
Ethan, let's go to Dan Mountain to take photos again.
Sure, Lucy. I'll bring out the photos from last time for comparison. We can make an album together.
They planned their itinerary for the next few days. On Wednesday, they would visit the zoo to take pictures with the giant pandas. On Thursday, they would go shopping and watch a comedy at the cinema if they got tired. In the evening, they would enjoy the riverside breeze and buy street food. On Friday, they would do DIY projects like knitting scarves, making ceramics, or embroidering pouches. On Saturday, they would have a picnic and barbecue. On Sunday, they would stay home and enjoy their last moments together. Lucy's plan was flawless, and Ethan was surprisingly cooperative. They did all sorts of things like a real couple. Their first photo together, recording a song, holding hands, hugging, watching movies, tying ties, and sharing kisses.
Ethan, you make everything feel so real. I almost can't distinguish if this is a dream.
Sunday night arrived. It was supposed to be her last day, the deadline to ask Ethan if he would leave with her. A long table was set with flowers and candlesticks, making it an extremely romantic candlelight dinner. But for some reason, maybe the candlelight was too bright, it hurt her eyes. The warm candlelight in the center of the table blocked her view of Ethan.
James King, why are you so stubborn about staying here? Can you tell me?
The Ethan who should have called her sister was unusually silent today.
Lucy.
I'm here, James.
Time passed slowly, and Lucy didn't want to know what time it was. Being betrayed didn't hurt as much as this uncertainty.
Would you be willing to leave here with me? We can live somewhere else.
Does Lucy like that place?
Yes, I like it very much. So, James, do you want to be with me?
Lucy calmly looked at Ethan, waiting for his decision.
Okay.
The embrace was tight and his lips were warm. When Lucy opened her eyes again, she stared at the ceiling and let out a scream.
Ah. How did I end up in James King's bed?
She cautiously glanced at herself. Thankfully, her clothes were intact. Slowly, she moved her hand to the side. No one was there either. Relieved, she boldly lifted the blanket, planning to sneak out.
Lucy, where are you rushing off to?
Just as one foot touched the floor, a familiar voice came from the doorway. She turned around abruptly. It was James King. Seeing the amused look in his eyes, some less than harmonious images flashed through her mind. Instantly, her face turned beet red. That was her first kiss.
All right, I won't tease you anymore. Let me see if you're okay.
His tone carried a mix of regret and relief. Lucy spread her arms and spun around in front of him, over and over. Until she was exhausted and sweating, she punched him in the chest.
Take me to eat. I'm starving. Hurry up.
While eating the gourmet breakfast he made himself, Lucy, as usual, kept her eyes on him. It was strange. She suddenly thought of a senior from high school.
James King, where did you go to high school?
When she shakily asked this question, she saw him across from her, eyes red, opening his arms to her. She suddenly understood something and rushed over to hug him tightly.
What happened to Ethan?
There's plenty of time to talk about that.
With her submission deadline approaching, Lucy decided to incorporate ginkgo leaf elements into a pair of earrings. The leaves are fan-shaped, like hearts, representing life and death, spring and autumn, and also two hearts connected. Born in spring, met in autumn, a small leaf symbolizing the endless bond between them. On the night of their wedding, Lucy brought up the question again.
Why did you become Ethan?
This time, he held her face and seriously explained, word by word.
In high school, I met a junior. She was beautiful and kind-hearted. We always ran into each other in the library. She mostly went to read comic books. Gradually, through both chance and deliberate encounters, we were strangers yet familiar. The day I learned her name, I planned to give her a postcard as a keepsake. But that day, she took a leave of absence. I didn't get a chance to tell her I was going abroad. While abroad, I often inquired about her. Until I heard she had a boyfriend, and she really liked him.
Lucy couldn't bear to listen any further, her heart aching.
When I returned to the country and founded JX, I selfishly took the King from my name and the Lucy from hers to name the company. Originally, Ethan was just meant for housekeeping. But later, I heard she had passed away, and I was terrified of facing reality. In my world, I could do as I pleased, even reversing time. Like a dream, entirely self-created. But the moment she appeared, I dared not do anything. I just wanted to be with her, under the name Ethan. I set up a love progress bar, hoping to gauge her affection for me. When I collected enough love, I would wake up and complete the final 100%. Who isn't greedy? I wanted more and more. The love she gave wasn't enough to keep me awake. The program settings clashed with my consciousness. I never expected my Lucy to come looking for me. Her meticulous plan was my dream come true. From the first day, I was willing to go with her. But I also cherished this hard-won warmth, afraid that reality would be just a dream. Thankfully, it was all real. I am James King, the coward who missed Lucy in my youth, the selfish, reality-avoiding Ethan, and the one who, as long as you appear, has no other choice. You're James.
Listening to his slow recount, Lucy nestled in his arms, crying uncontrollably. Her James was by her side, and the real Ethan was being continually perfected.